the creativity. That's why I'm a marketeer. That's where I built my fortunes per se, was in marketing and creativity. So, and I've always found other people to do the finance or the process or operation stuff for me, because that's not where I'm engaged or where I think I'm particularly good. So,
well, and since a lot of CEOs listen to this podcast, a lot of CEOs have ADD of one form or another, and they thrive when they hire people who are organized. So it's very important, because we tend like to hire people like ourselves, and it's very important to hire people who help us where we're more vulnerable.
It's almost like hiring people with different brains, literally.
Yes.
We talked about something a second ago. You said when you saw your brain for the first time, it changed your life. I do feel like that now. I do feel like when I almost didn't realize my brain was there. And I think a lot of people, we go through our lives just kind of, because we never see the thing, we don't appreciate the thing. So step one is that awareness. And then step two is the realization that we can do something about it. Because I grew up thinking that your brain and your body generally is just, it just is what it is. Like I can't do anything about, I tend to think I can't do anything about, I don't know, my fingernail. You can, but you just see these things as static objects that are what they are. This idea that I can do something about it is the most important idea. It's the empowering idea. And that is what you're telling me is possible. I can change my brain.
It's the most exciting lesson that I've learned. You're not stuck. I'm not stuck with the brain I had. You're not stuck with the brain you have. You can make it better. I can prove it. In fact, every day, what I've come to believe, you're making your brain better or you're making it worse.
Let's start there.
By what you're doing.
What things make the brain worse? What are the common things that most of us do without thinking that make the brain worse?
When my daughter Chloe was in second grade, I went to her classroom and I wrote 20 things on the board. And I went, separate them for me. Good for your brain, bad for your brain. 7-year-olds. They got 19 out of 20 right. So most people know. The only thing they got wrong was orange juice. They put it in the healthy category. In fact, when is it rational to unwrap fruit sugar from its fiber source? Because it turns toxic in your body. So I'm not a fan of fruit juice. I'm a fan of fruit, not fruit juice. But so the bad category, hitting a soccer ball with your head. No, don't do that.
What's bad about sugar for the brain?
Pro-inflammatory.
What does that
mean? It
mean?
makes you diabetic.
But I mean, as it relates to the brain, why is orange juice or the ice cream bad for my brain?
Because it's ultimately going to give you high blood sugar levels, which erode your blood vessels, and you're going to have lower blood flow to your brain. That's a bad thing. There's so many things about it. So it's addictive. It's pro-inflammatory. It makes it more likely you're going to have diabetes and obesity. So 72% of Americans are overweight, 42% are obese. I've published 3 studies on 35,000 people. As your weight goes up, the actual physical size and function of your brain goes down. That should scare the fat off anyone. I used to be chubby, but when I figured out that connection, I'm like, oh no. It was that gave me the motivation to drop about 25 pounds. And so sugar is the gateway drug to diabetes and obesity. And so, not to mention inflammation, which is the cause of depression and dementia. So
I've got sugar, I've got head injury. I'm going to avoid both of these things. What else should I avoid?
And then you have low blood flow in those 2 very important areas. And so how can we increase blood flow? So you want to avoid things that cause low blood flow. Caffeine constricts blood flow to the brain.
And what does that do to my brain?
Well, it constricts blood flow. So you're going to get less blood flow. And remember, I showed you that progression with age. No, you don't want that. You want to do things that increase blood flow to your brain. So exercise. Ginkgo, It's just one of the supplements I'm going to give you. Eat foods like beets, oregano, rosemary, cinnamon. They increase blood flow. And
do you think there's correlation or a link between caffeine consumption and a shrinking brain?
yes,
And a shrinking brain, is that associated with things like dementia?
aging brain. I don't think there's a connection. I haven't read any research that says there's a connection between caffeine and dementia. And there's connection with sleep problems and dementia. I think if you have like 100 milligrams a day of caffeine, it's probably fine. But one venti Starbucks coffee has got 330 milligrams of caffeine.
Jesus.
And people just aren't thinking about the level of caffeine they're having in our society.
What are the other very obvious things that are not good for my brain? Because I really want to make sure that I avoid those things. So I've got sugar,
So,
head
and
injury.
erectile dysfunction. While we're on, so B is for blood flow, right? While we're on blood flow, 40% of 40-year-olds have erectile dysfunction. 70% of 70-year-olds have erectile dysfunction. What that means, if you have blood flow problems anywhere, it means they're everywhere. And it means either you're too sedentary, you're overweight, you're smoking, or having too much caffeine, or using marijuana, because marijuana lowers blood flow to the brain. And so just in that one of the 11, it's exercise, ginkgo, and for you, not for everybody, but for you, hyperbaric oxygen. Those three things will make a big difference in blood flow.
Ginkgo.
Ginkgo.
What is that?
It's a supplement.
What does it do?
Increases blood flow.
To the brain?
The prettiest brains I've ever seen take ginkgo. There's actually a SPEC study. They gave people 120 milligrams of ginkgo twice a day, significant improvement in blood flow to the brain. And one of the supplements I'm going to give you, we have ginkgo. I've taken it every day for the last 20 years, at least. And then, this is where the U.S. government got an F for the pandemic, loneliness accelerates dementia and brain problems. And so when they isolated us, the whole significant increase in brain problems. So get connected to other people. The I in Bright Minds is inflammation. So what increases inflammation? Low omega-3 fatty acid levels. And we are deficient. 93% of the population is deficient in omega-3 fatty acids. 93%. So all of us should be either eating more fish or taking an omega-3 supplement like fish oil. Gum disease. Who knew? I wasn't really that good at taking care of my gums until I started reading the studies. You have gum disease, you have inflammation, you're more likely to get depressed and have dementia. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I'm a flossing fool. H is head trauma. We talked about that. I did the big NFL study when the NFL was struggling with the truth on traumatic brain injury in football. And 80% of our players got better. T is toxins, drugs, alcohol, but other things like mercury and
What are the unobvious toxins? Because
anesthesia.
Anesthesia. I was looking at my bathroom items and I have like mouthwash and toothpaste and deodorants and aftershaves. And I was wondering to myself whether those were toxic to some degree.
So there's an app. There's a couple of them, but the one I like is called Think Dirty, where you can scan those products and it'll tell you on a scale of 0 to 10 how bad they are for you. So 0 is you live a long time and 10 is you die early. And so when I figured this out and I was scanning everything, it cost me hundreds of dollars to replace things. And my wife, more than that, with all the makeup and stuff. But I shaved for 50 years with Barbasol, and it's a 9, which is die early. And now I shave with something called Kiss My Face, and it's a 2. It's like, we teach people, read the labels on food stuff. Should read the labels on anything that goes on your body or on your child's body. And we have this epidemic, and we'll get to it, of low testosterone in males because of the toxins we put on their bodies when they're young.
Like, share, and subscribe.